Hi everyone, and after a long wait, we finally got to see the official trailer to the mmpr 30th anniversary special. Now, of course, spoilers. So basically, what is the movie about? So what we get from the trailer is that Rita somehow has come back to life. We don't really know how. And her objective is to kill the Rangers, but not kill the Rangers right here. In fact, the machine that we saw in the photographs is actually a time machine that Rita's been building and is going to go back in time and kill the Rangers before Zordon gave them their powers back in the day of the dumpster pilot. How does Trini die in the movie? Now, in my other videos, I had theorized, the footage that we saw of the MMP Rangers on that, grassy, cliffy area, I thought maybe that was going to be a flashback of, like, maybe we're going to see the Rangers fight in the past, and maybe that's how Trini dies. We get, like, a little backstory of, like, what happened to her in the past, and then we jump forward to the present, and we're dealing with whatever problem was going on. I was kind of in the middle of that. That's not a flashback. That is present day, and Rita, when she comes back, she's the one responsible of killing Trini. It's implied because the trailer, if you pay attention to the trailer, they don't show that much. Usually when trailers do this is because there's a lot of, like, super important secret-y things they don't want to reveal, and they really can't because of, the footage wouldn't allow it. So the way they deal with it is they give you the audio, but then they place it over various random scenes, and then they pull things from here and there in order to make things, like, put together so they don't spoil things. So we really don't get to see that much footage from the special, and a lot of times you see, like, it jumping back and forth. So what the trailer implies is that Rita was attacking Billy, he was defenseless, and Trini basically jumped in, and she got hit by her blast, being thrown off the cliff edge. I'm assuming her suit had failed, and then she died when she hit the ground. The one thing that I really appreciate now is that, in old MMPR days, whenever we have to deal with villains or whatnot, yeah, villains are scary, villains are cool, villains are smart, but, the series has to go on and on and on, so eventually villains become stupid, and then there's a lot of outs and excuses, or, like, Rangers didn't get killed here, they brainwashed them here, they didn't do them. So you run into these problems because they have to keep the story going. Now, in this case, it's like, finally, Rita, after being so, like, dumbed down, same as Zed, being dumbed down and stupefied because of, complaints, and then just be turning into jokes because they have to make the Machine Empire look better. Rita, in this case, was using her brain. Now, if you're going to make a device that travels back in time, who do you target first? The brains of the team, aka Billy. Unfortunately, that's the reason why Trini had to step in and take the shot. Now, we do get a lot of information from the trailer, even though they were very limited on what we can see. One of the bigger things is the new command center. Now, we saw the interior from all the behind-the-scenes stuff, but we also get a shot of the new exterior. And, again, it's CG. It's not bad. I think it's all right. I think, I think because some people have complaints, and I think mainly is because it's really just one color. It's a very different, stark contrast from the original command center. Like, I wasn't expecting them just to recreate the command center. Make a different design, which is fine, but it's like black, very dark. There's no, like, contrast. But I will give them credit in one thing. It's in the area where Gosei's base used to be. So at least they're acknowledging Gosei to a degree, so I'm assuming Gosei helped Billy and Alpha in creating this new command center. And we do get a couple of glimpses with Aish and Adam at the SPA office. It's a pretty much a CG background, and it does look like SPD, but it kind of also looks like they combined it, like, bits and pieces of Terra Venture. It's not a bad background, so I hope we get to see more of that area, but probably it's going to be very limited because, again, it's probably just a CG backdrop. And from the trailer, we really don't get to see Aisha and Adam at all. They're just in there for a couple of seconds, but we do know from the behind the scenes they're actually at the command center, so they do come back to Earth at some point, but just in the trailer we don't see that. Now, we do get very quick glimpses of backstory information to some of the characters, mainly Billy and Rocky. From the trailer, we do know Billy is well off now, because if you look at the command center, one of the consoles on the right side in the trailer actually shows Cranston Industries. So he basically owns a tech company of some kind. So I'm assuming, he probably came back to Earth at some point. You know, he's a genius. Take advantage of that genius. He went to college, graduating college, all that. He became his own company because he creates inventions. It's just like, finally, someone who's a genius actually has his own company. It's just like, what's her face in Ninja Steel? She's a genius making hoverboards, but she's like what? She has no grants. She didn't go to college first. It just felt very out of place. And Billy, you know, with his resources, he could make a completely new command center with his, you know, knowledge and, of course, Alpha's help. One other backstory we get is a really quick glimpse and you miss it moment when Rocky is teleported back in, and we get to see that he's in a fireman outfit. So obviously Rocky became a firefighter at some point. I guess, you know, he got, you know, influenced in those few MMPR episodes around fire and stuff. So I was like, at least we got some background to the characters, at least so far. I'm assuming the other characters throughout the story will get more information. And we do see that when the other Rangers get captured, Catherine and Rocky are teleported in as basically, look, well, the other Rangers are screwed. We need your help. And Cat and Rocky gain the Tyrannosaurus and Pterodactyl power coins back. Now, I'm assuming that the original power coins were restored. So my theory is if Tommy, Kimberly, and Jason were captured for the time travel machine, because we see the figurines of them in the device, in the behind-the-scenes photos, I'm thinking, well, they must have restored the original power coins from Ninjor so they were able to give Cat and Rocky those versions of the powers back, while the other team is using the Ninjetti coins. Now, with the trailer, it also gave me a couple of extra ideas of, like, what's going on. Now, I was thinking, like, oh, well, we didn't know about what this device is. Why is Rita capturing random Power Rangers from different seasons? And then with the trailer, it got me thinking, possibly the reason why Rita needs not only the Rangers that act like batteries, but I think she needs Rangers from various teams in order to travel back in time to those specific time points. Basically, you know, the Morphin grid is like so many different things. It does a lot of stuff for the story because it's, you know, this special energy field around planets that it can tap in, and it can house, you know, all the powers of the suits, gear, weaponry, etc., etc. It does so many things. So it's possible the Morphin grid, it also is linked through time. So my theory is she needs Rangers from the MMPR team in order to do that, so she can travel to that point. And it makes more sense if she has to capture other Rangers from other teams, she could actually also travel back in time to the other points. The reason why I think this is because there was a screen that came up really quickly. It's called the Bandora Protocol. Now, besides the obvious reference, the screen was listing off the locations of other Power Ranger teams like Reefside and Coral Harbor. But then it showed the Astro Megaship, and then right before it cuts, it actually shows Terra Venture. Now, at first I thought, oh, it's a minor nitpick, they made a mistake, it should be the Astro Megaship 2, because, you know, it got blown up in LG, and it came back in Wild Force as the Megaship 2, and I was like, oh, it's a nitpick. But then I kept thinking to myself, the writing team has been very careful and precise when they're bring up, you know, most information from the past, and they usually don't get things wrong. So I said, if it's not a mistake, maybe the Bandora Protocol is a serious situation to alert other Ranger teams, but also alert other Ranger teams from the past. It's possible that maybe whenever Rita actually does this thing and goes back in time and the Rangers follow, they have to also use that ability in order to alert other teams. It's also possible that with the help from Time Force and whatnot, he might have had, like, you know, technology integrated into the command center to alert different dimensions and different time periods of Rangers in case of something severe happens like this that's going on right now. If I'm correct, and Rita took the Rangers in order to act as batteries, she could have also easily pulled them from different timelines and has just basically changed history, and they must prevent Rita from, you know, screwing up the entire timeline. And another reason why I also think this theory is correct is that we get to see the return of the Juice Bar. Now, of course, the Juice Bar is, you know, cool that we get to see the Juice Bar again because we haven't seen it since, you know, in space. But I was also thinking it's possible the footage that we were seeing from the Juice Bar could have actually already been in the past. Now, we know that Rita is attempting to go back in time to 1993 in the Day of the Dumpster. And we do get to see the juice bar and Zach and everyone fighting inside. And then we do get some, fight scenes outside of a building that looks like the juice bar. The exterior is trying to match what the exterior of the original juice bar looked like from outside. I'm personally thinking the fight that we see with the Rangers in that rubble and trying to protect the people and fighting the two of the old monsters, I'm thinking this scene happens just as Rita returns to the past and the Rangers follow her. And basically, they're fighting at the juice bar just after the Rangers first teleport into the Day of the Dumpster while the earthquake is going on. Because it would make more sense of the Rangers fighting putties and the juice bar being emptied. And, there's all this random rubble and cars all over the place during that earthquake in the pilot. I could be wrong. They could easily be fighting in the juice bar in present day because, the juice bar wasn't destroyed or anything as we know it. It was just there and it was taken over by what's-her-face in space. So we could easily assume that the juice bar has just existed for these past 30 years and it's just still been open, so they could easily have gone back. But you would think if the juice bar has been active for like 30 years, it would have changed a lot over the 30 years, and they would have changed all the equipment, it would have been more modernized. But when we get to see those quick glimpses of the juice bar, it pretty much looks the same back in 1993, 94, and 95. So I'm thinking the Rangers are fighting in the past. This would also explain how the original Megazord is in the film, because, they got blown up at the beginning of season 3. So, like, how are the Zords back? Yeah, you can restore their powers, but how do you restore their Zords? And why would they not be in the Thunder Megazord formation? So it would make sense that if the mmpr Rangers did travel back in time in the pilot, they'd have the ability to summon the original Megazord. Overall, I think the trailer did an okay job at giving us the basic gist of what's going on in the trailer. It doesn't spoil too much, but I do really like one particular thing. Now, a lot of times, actors who've been in a series for, many, many years ago, and they bring back the series. Sometimes actors have issues where they can't remember their character because they haven't been doing their character for so long, whether it's a voice or like some mannerisms. A couple of examples I can think of is Fry in Futurama. When they revived Futurama, Billy West had an issue with his voice. He couldn't remember how to do Fry's voice for a couple of episodes. Same thing actually happened with Krillin in Dragon Ball Super. The Japanese voice actress who voices Krillin, she forgot how to do Krillin's voice for several episodes. But in MMPR's case, like everyone who came back, from the voice actors to the main cast, everyone feels like nothing has changed. And I have to also give, props to the writers, because one thing that's also fairly difficult to do when you bring back characters, especially from 30 years ago, they might sound different and they might sound odd being in the present day because, we remember them from 93 to 95 and, that's from the 90s. People talked very, differently back then, or they had personalities from the 90s. And you would want to see those, mannerisms, personalities, and, goofy things about the characters that, should be here. And all the characters, at least from what we see in the trailer, everyone feels like themselves. Zach feels like himself. Billy feels like himself. Kat, Rocky, everyone feels like who they're supposed to be, Alpha especially. It was actually kind of weird in a way when it comes to Alpha because, I've been so used to hearing Alpha 6's 2 different voices. When Alpha came back in Overdrive, we had a different voice. And so it's very odd to hear Alpha be Alpha again for more than 2 seconds since Forever Red. So that, and then of course Rita. Now Rita, my thoughts on Rita, we don't really know the whole background about Rita. I know everyone is having well, how does this make any sense? Rita was turned good at the end of Countdown to Destruction, then she became the Mystic Mother in Mystic Force, so how does Rita get evil again or something? I mean, there's ways around that. It's not like, everyone's just ignoring what happened in the past. I mean, I thought of a couple of ways the writers could deal with this. One, kind of an obvious one, is that Zed and Rita had backups, mind copies of some kind. The Power Rangers, we dealt with crazier stuff, before. We had Billy's mind be transferred into Kim's body, for example, vice versa. So if the Rangers can do that by mistake, Rita and Zed could probably back up their brains into something like the cards from the Psycho Rangers, for example. Who knows? Maybe their minds were just duplicated and saved in a just-in-case situation. The second option, and I think the first option would be an easier way to explain Thrax and how Zed came back in the first place, too. If they are duplicates of themselves, it would make sense that they just simply got bodies. That would be it. The second thing I thought about is like, well, we know that Zordon's wave took the evil out of Rita, destroyed her old body, and created a new body. Well, the reverse could happen too. Just because there's a good wave, there could be an evil wave that can revert people. So it's possible someone at some point could have reverted Rita, Zed perhaps, and then someone did something for bring Zed back. And but unfortunately, in the process of reverting their bodies, because remember, their original evil body was destroyed, disintegrated, and they had new bodies. But if you destroy the good body, the old evil body doesn't exist. So it's possible that when they converted them back to evil, their bodies simply disappeared and their spirit had to be put into a robot body. So that could be an explanation of how Rita came back. Now, the whole Mystic Mother thing, again, it wouldn't matter. If you're able to extract the evil from Mystic Mother and return her to Rita, then that's it. It doesn't matter if she has magic or whatever. Were there anything that I didn't particularly like in the trailer? For the most part, only one thing really kind of, I was like, oh, why did they do this? The visual effects, I think, were cool. They updated the teleport effect, which I was like, at first I was like, I would have preferred if they had kept the original one, like don't change what's not broken. The updated one is basically, like, they took all the elements from the original teleport, like, how the teleport and had like the little white energy in the middle. That's still there. I think it's a cool effect. It'll grow on me, but me personally, I would have liked the old teleport design. But the thing that probably a lot of people have problems with is the Megazord. Now, of course, I was not expecting them to have guys in suits and get the models from Japan in order to shoot all this stuff all over again. So they were going to just do CG again. And I'm like, okay, fine. It's not a big deal that they use CG. The problem I have is this. Instead of modeling the Zords from their actual original appearance from the show, they decided to do this weird amalgamation of them being based off the toys, mostly specifically the Zap Megazord Ascension project of the Megazord. Now, granted, even in Super Sentai, the suits, of course, incorporate a lot of elements from the toys. Like, a common thing they always like to stick in with the toys is the, connecting coupler. Always looks like the toy connecting piece to keep that, consistency. But for the most part, the suits or CG models are supposed to be higher detailed, fleshed out, fully fleshed out versions of those toys. While the toys have various limitations, the CG/studio models don't have those limitations. When they made the CG models for this version of the Megazord, it's based off the toy, so a ton of elements are from the toys specifically. Their shapes, the way they shine, because again, they're based off toys, so they look really plasticky. And I think that's the main complaint. It's not like they added a ton more detail, because again, the older studio models didn't have that much detail. They were cool looking, which I still like them even till today. You can throw more detail here and there. That's not the issue. It's the fact that they have their specific toy shapes. And also another thing that makes this more annoying is the T-Rex. Now, we know the T-Rex is a guy in a suit, and so it feels even more out of place, while the other dinosaurs were models, and now he's CG. The model from at least the side shot of the Zords coming in, it didn't look right. There seemed to be some weird issues with that. So it's a combination of the Zords being toy-like too much, and also on the top of it, they're doing a full CG Megazord fight. And it's just like, well, why didn't you just borrow the Daijujin suit from Sentai? They remade that suit for, various specials and team-ups in recent years, like from Gokaiger. The suit's only, 5 to 10 years old at this point. So it's just like, why didn't they just simply grab at least the Megazord suit so they can actually film a Megazord fight specifically for this special? That's the one thing that, that's what Power Ranger is, a guy in a suit. I don't agree that, oh, it makes it look cheapy and they want to make it look more cooler, but I was like, the CG version of it doesn't make it look cooler. It makes it a little bit more clunkier. The animation is just not really there, and I don't want to, I don't want to insult the team. Like, they're working with whatever they have, and they have to get these things done. But it's just like, it would have been easier to film a guy in a suit, and it would have looked better, at least for when they're fighting as Megazord. The Dinozord's a different situation. You have to do them as CG. There's no other way. I think that is really the only major complaint that I have, and it's not even a major one. It's just like, if everything else is good, who cares? It's just that one clunker issue that's just going to happen at the end. Overall, I think the trailer was good. I mean, some people were expecting, like, oh, this is going to be super amazing. This is going to be like grim dark, and I was like, well, Power Rangers is not grim dark. It can be darker at times, like example Time Force, and even in Once and Always, it is darker. Trainees killed. They actually get to say the word dead and killed. It's just like, wow, it's actually everyone speaking normally. It's more mature because it's aiming for us, the adults this time. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want this to be turned into some super grim, dark, ultra crazy thing. Yeah, it can work in some circumstances, like, for example, Shin Kamen Rider. It takes the elements from the old Kamen Rider series and it kind of makes it into film noir aspects. People were probably expecting that, and then basically what we have here is MMPR 30 years later. And it is, and that's what it really should be. But some people are torn on that. I think what they picked was a decent middle ground. It's there for adults. It's there for everyone, because everyone can still watch the show. If they're going to go back in time and we're going to see, past moments here and there from various episodes, it's possible. That's what they're keeping hidden behind the scenes, where, oh, we might be jumping through specific points in MMPR's history that we'll see moments here and there. Like, we might see Pudgy Pig. We might see other monsters, just glimpses here and there. They might do things like that. Or we might even see glimpses of other PR teams while they're being captured. It's possible that they can have those in there, and there's possible there could be a few other cameos in there. It could be a little bit more simpler. It's like Rita just going back in time. We don't really get to see that many glimpses. But obviously, going back in time will help in one particular thing that everyone would want to see: Zordon. And it helps with avoiding the obvious thing. Well, if we bring back Zordon, it screws his sacrifice at the end of In Space. How do we show Zordon without doing that? A perfect way to do that is go back in time. And the perfect person to use time travel with is Zordon, because he's out of time. Everyone always forgets, like, Zordon's in a time warp. His tube could be linked at any point in time. So it's possible that Zordon may already even know this is going on, because he could know his fate from the very beginning to what's in the future, that when he's long dead. So we don't know how he can comprehend time. He's always in the energy tube. It's a possible doorway to different points in time. So they have that leeway to allow Zordon to come back. We can see him, we can hear him, the Rangers can interact with him, see him again, they get that moment with him, it's the real deal, but then not solely the moment when Zordon actually died in space. It's a very clever way to work around that issue, and I'm glad they went that route, versus going, oh, we'll just revive Zordon somehow, and then that's it. And it's just like, oh, thanks. I'm not expecting the moon. What we already saw, I was really surprised. We get to see the remnants of the palace that's left. We get to see the juice bar. We're going to get to see the Red Bug too. So it's possible they have a couple of other locations left to see. Now, one question I do have, I do wonder. The special is, putting in a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of time into this. I wonder if they're going to go all the way and recreate the Megazord cockpit for new footage, because even Super Sentai doesn't do that. They usually use stock footage. They may shoot new material with the guys in the suit, but the cockpit stuff they don't do. Unless they have, like, access to the old cockpits that have been, like, being used today, like, and they'll always be redressed and they can revert it back to an older one if it's recent enough, then they'll do it. But if it's something like from Abba Ranger, for example, no, they're not going to recreate the cockpit just for, like, 2 seconds. They'll just steal stock footage from Abba Ranger to do things like that. So I'm wondering if the team will actually build the Megazord, which will be funny, because this will be the second time the U.S. team will build the Megazord, and maybe if they do, it might actually look good versus them doing it for that stupid joke dream with Bulk and Skull. all that work for 5 seconds. I think Once and Always will be a good send-off and one final hurrah for the mmpr team. I'm praying and hoping that it won't disappoint. So yeah, we'll see what happens in 1 month.